Coming to you from the city of the weird. Exploring topics from the esoteric and unexplored to dimensions unknown. Shining a light of truth on the darkest corners of our reality. Welcome to the Curious Realm.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Curious Realm's final bit of coverage of the International Remote Viewing Association's 25th anniversary cruise here aboard the Mayan of the Seas. I have the pleasure of being joined with the current president of Irva. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm great, Chris. It's very nice to be talking to you.
We have a great time every year at the show, Debra. It is always fantastic to come. It's a great community with Irva. Tell us a little bit about how it came to be the 25th anniversary, how it came to be a decision to be a cruise this time around.
Yes, well, we had a great year last year for SciFest, where we did a combined conference with the Monroe Institute, and we had over 235 people last year.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is a lot of stress, as you know, organizing big events and dealing with hotels and everything. And so we wanted to do something very unique and special for the 25th year anniversary, and also something that would take pressure off of those who were organizing the conferences. And we discovered that if you do a conference on a cruise, really so much of it is already organized for you. Yeah. And there's a lot less negotiating and putting out funds ahead of time. So from a practical standpoint, and also a lot of us just wanted to go on a cruise too. So you put that all together, and it's worked out great. And as you know, we're in the middle of a hurricane, just a few hundred miles away south from the hurricane, but we're having a great time.
It's fantastic.
There's so much to do. Like today we went salsa dancing lessons, and we went ice skating, and tonight we're doing karaoke and then a disco. And of course we have our wonderful remote viewing program as well during our 2 days at sea. So and you know, the most important thing is that we're together. You know, so many of us get to really bond in a way that we typically don't get to at many other conferences. Yeah,
absolutely. Because people end up going off separately for dinner, all kinds of things. And, you know, really it's been great to see literally the community being built amongst people here. And I think that has quite honestly been a lot of the theme of our interviews that we've done, is the importance of community amongst research like this, the importance of not only local community, but global community and that global networking aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, one of the reasons why we have an in-person conference is so that we can all come together in person, because even though we can do so much apart on Zoom and in various online communities, it's just not the same as coming together. Yeah. And, you know, here we're almost together 24 hours a day, and it's great conversations. We're getting to meet lots of new people, see old friends, and just get to know each other better.
Yeah, and you know, the sessions that we've had so far, the Outbounder, everything else, there have been some great learning opportunities in there, especially when it comes to learning how to incorporate AI. You did a great video with Cindy on incorporating AI as a monitor, things like that. I think it is fascinating, and I think we need some good lab research on the concept of using AI targets. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, well, Cindy Miller has really been studying every aspect of AI, and then we've been playing around for a while, different ways how we can use it. And even like a few months ago, I had a session that I showed her, and she was like, well, let me see how AI would analyze it compared to how I would analyze it, and or, you know, a human would analyze it. And she got some really interesting results. And that was just one trial run. Yeah. And then here you saw the AI monitoring me in that one example. And it was cool because you could see like the AI monitor did need some help. She needed some training as far as understanding how to like not give leading questions. You know, like when I said there was movement, then she said, well, you know, what does the car look like that's moving? And then I had to say, no, I never said a car. Yeah. So please don't give me examples unless you hear me say the word. And then she said, okay, I'll
Yeah.
try to
Oh,
improve
I
on that.
understand. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, she was so human-like. It
It
was
was.
really, really pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was cool because you could see she still needs training, but I really had my doubts that someone could help with an AI could help with a viewer in their session. And, there were times she said, okay, sit back and relax and refocus. And I did,
Yeah.
so I do think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when you're talking about looking at it through different filters, that was one of the things that we talked about with Luciano, as well as Carl, was the idea that when you build a global network, it's great to have your localized network of viewers that you work with in your hometown, your local area. But when you build that international network, when you bring someone like Luciano in from Brazil, you may end up with a different read of the information, because they're looking at things through a different cultural filter. They're looking at things through a different political filter. The things that may get in the way of our session, or even of reviewing that data of a session, may
Yeah.
not be there for them, or they may look at it in a different way.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, a few years ago, we did a study where we had 10 different judges rejudge completed remote viewing sessions, and there were about 300 sessions, about 10 different judges, and they looked at the same data, and almost none of them had matching scores. Like, they all gave different scores, and
Oh, wow.
some of them differed by several points in between. So this is actually a really big problem in all of remote viewing, probably all in even psychology research. There tends to be such a disparity anytime you have humans judging any kind of data. And, this is really getting into what academic scientists would call a reader reliability. And it's just very, very low. So, that's a problem right there.
Yeah.
So possibly AI can help with that, but it's hard to say. We do have a plan to do further formal studies, and there's the Bial Foundation that offers parapsychology grants, and a group of us at Irva, really 4 of the board members, just applied for a grant, and they're one of the organizations that give the most money to parapsychologists these days. So a group of us have applied, and we came up with 5 different proposed projects within one umbrella collection. So if we do get the grant, which is about $60,000, we would conduct 5 different experiments. And one of the experiments would be formally looking at monitoring, which, for those who aren't familiar, that's the idea that one person who's either called a monitor or interviewer sits with the remote viewer and walks them through a session. Tomorrow, when we get back to our program for the conference, I'm going to be doing a talk on this, and we're going to everyone's going to get a chance to monitor each other and be viewers, because so many viewers today actually just work their sessions on their own without that guidance.
Yeah.
But we want to do a formal study to see, do viewers do better with a human monitor, without any monitor, or with an AI monitor? And so that's one of the experiments we'll be doing.
Yeah, and that's something that I've said in numerous conversations over the weekend. As I've begun my remote viewing journey. The Outbounder the other day was maybe session 8 or 9 for me. But I have fully found, I've found that knowing my monitor for the last 2 years before I started, and just being friends with her and having conversations, I think has really given her a roadmap to how I think. Like, she watches the show, so she knows analytically how I think.
Yeah.
She knows where my mind goes with certain things and stuff like that. And she especially knows my facial expressions with aha moments, that kind of stuff. So when we're in a Zoom together, she knows when I may not be saying something, but something happened. And she's like, whoa, it seems like you hid something there. What just happened?
Yeah.
She knows those facial tics from me, things like that. And it's one of those that, kind of like the Outbounder the other day, I started keying more on the art than the actual building, which was the task. And once I drew a square and a circle and heard the word power and wrote it down and started drawing rays on the circle, I went immediately, my mind went, oh, power plant. And I kept drawing that. And my monitor would have immediately stopped me and been like, whoa, hold on. Where are you pulling that from? Let's back that up a minute.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I wouldn't have rabbit holed that far
Yeah,
with my monitor present.
to have someone to be watching you for that. And like you said, she even knows your facial expressions, your body language.
Yeah.
That's so important. I had a student who she had already gone through other remote viewing training, but she said that she felt like she wasn't doing well enough, and she had even applied for a job as a remote viewer and was turned down. And so she came to my class, and she seemed like she was doing okay, but I could never get her to sketch. She would never draw anything. And as you know, that's so important when you're doing remote viewing, both for reporting what you're getting so people can understand it, but also like as a procedure to stimulate, get you in the right part of your creative brain and to be getting more information that way. And she just would not sketch. And I asked for volunteers to be monitored in class, and she agreed. And as I was watching her, I was noticing that she would make all these gestures, like wild gestures with her hands. And what I realized was she was drawing, but she was drawing in the air because she was so unconfident about her sketching abilities, even though I would tell her, yeah, there's probably a reason we're talking about this, even though I'd say it doesn't matter if you're not a good artist, just get it down.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I mean, it was almost like she was pantomiming, like holding a pen. And I was like, just put your hands down about 6 inches on the paper and just put it on the paper.
Let it go.
Yeah. And finally, midway through our session, she did that. And the target was some kind of outdoor staircase somewhere. And she drew the stairs. I mean, she just totally nailed the target.
Wow.
Yeah, I was blown away by that. And that really taught me, yeah, we really need to see the body language of the viewer.
Yeah, yeah. And even the fact of what you're saying, the self-consciousness, letting that go. Like the Outbounder the other day was literally the first time that I have sketched in a session.
Really?
Because the sketches have never come to me. The image in my mind has never occurred. Ever. The only time it ever happened was my first session when I was sent my coordinates. I immediately texted my monitor back, I see white truss. That's the only time that I've ever vividly seen something, not where I've gotten an impression of it or something like that, where it's like, I could have drawn it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, even if you don't get that, like, for example, I was doing a session last week and I just thought I was getting kind of emotional, and I just told myself, okay, I'm just going to draw, because we had these big pieces of paper and coloring tools. So I was like, I'm just going to spend the rest of this time. I don't feel like really even finishing my session. I thought I was like out of my session and I'm just drawing. And I was inclined to draw these big oval shapes. And then it turned out that the target was of a past UFO encounter, and the photograph, the feedback photo, was exactly the oval shapes that I had drawn up in the sky. And I had spent all this time like coloring them in like iridescent bubble looking objects, which were quite similar to what was in the photo. So oftentimes it's not that we're even getting a picture, but just even, you know, if you let yourself just doodle or, you know, do any motion with your hand, you'll just start to have things come out on paper. You know, even if you get a sense of movement, like just draw the movement. You know, if you get a sense of something being like squished together, like do your depiction of something squished together. Like just make yourself draw anything, even if it doesn't look like anything. And you'll be really amazed of what comes out of that. But like you said, a lot of times people think like, oh, I can only draw if I get this perfect image in my mind. And that's just not true at all.
Well, and with that in mind, let's kind of switch the gear into the education part of this and how you go about introducing new students to this concept.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just so much like any other skill, just getting them started with, I personally am very technique based. I always want to have something myself to help me tune into something psychically, no matter
Mm,
what. I do many different intuitive modalities, even other than remote viewing.
yeah.
But I've been doing remote viewing formally for 14 years. And so for me, it's all about how do you connect with the target or subject, and wanting to have techniques, lots of different techniques for connecting, and then for initial tuning in, and then for extracting more and more information as you go along. And that's all about techniques. And I like to have a lot because, sometimes one will work great and
Mm,
sometimes it won't work at all. So I
yeah.
never want to be left with like just sitting there not knowing, how to tune in and what to do next. And so there's so many different ways to do those things. And depending on, what your end goal is with using your psychic abilities, it may differ. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of education, because how do you pass along those, tools and techniques? You need to do it through training of some kind.
Yeah.
And so that's something I've run my own school, the International School of Clairvoyance, since 2005.
Oh, wow.
All different sorts of clairvoyant reading and healing techniques, remote viewing techniques, mediumship. But since I've been president of Irva, it's been really important to me to expand educational opportunities to people, making them more affordable,
Yeah.
introducing them to new instructors, and giving opportunities for new instructors to be able to get their feet wet with teaching. Because,
Yeah.
just like there's so many students, newer students or new viewers out there who say, how can I, get educated? There's so many new teachers saying, I think I'm ready to share this
Yeah.
knowledge. They're excited about it. They want to share it, but they don't know like how to break in because, they don't want to offend their teachers. They don't, they're not quite sure if they're ready. And so through Irva, we have been able to have both very highly established teachers, longtime teachers, and some brand new ones too. And, work on mentoring them and, giving them opportunities where it's not like they're going to, teach like months of classes, but, maybe
Yeah.
a few hours here or there.
Sure.
Yeah. And we've had like over 15 classes since we started the Irva education
Oh,
program just a few years ago.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And it seems like there's been some great support from the community in it, things like that. And to hear especially Luciano come in and talk about the globalization effort, the idea of bringing this educational effort globally, translating things in real time, that kind of stuff, making it accessible to other people, making it accessible to people who are hard of hearing with subtitles, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. A few years ago, we really looked at where in the organization was there a deficit, and we
Mm,
were like, okay, well, it's called the International Remote Viewing Association, but how many international people are we reaching? And our goal is to spread the word about remote viewing all over the world, and that's not going to happen on its own.
yeah.
So yeah, we look at it like it was really miraculous to have someone whose full-time job for years has been globalization and expanding those efforts for businesses. So, that's we've really been a working board for throughout the history of Irva, but in the last few years, we're really a working board. Like we in some way we're a nonprofit, but we're operating our nonprofit in a way to make the organization financially sound, because in the
Yeah.
past it was not, a lot of times it was just on the borderline. So,
Mm,
we're both looking to see how can we bring in money through our various like expanding membership, expanding our offerings and our
yeah.
events. But at the same time, the most important thing is getting the word out about
Yeah.
remote viewing, educating people, training them, and also the research, which we've
Well,
been focused on.
yeah, that and well, demystifying the topic also, because once again, a lot of people seem to have a very um, either skewed or clouded understanding of what remote viewing is. You know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it is confusing because a lot of times people are like, well, is that just like out of body travel? Is, how does this differ from anything else? They have different definitions, and it is rather confusing. But we like to define it as it's using your abilities in more of a systematic, careful way, and it's also about what you're using it for. Oftentimes it's for looking at physical things like locations or objects. It could be looking at people, of course, but not. It's usually not about people saying, "Oh, I want a reading. Tell me about myself." It's more like, "Okay, this crime occurred. Let's use remote viewing to find out information about the perpetrator or find out information about the missing person." So, there's lots of other intuitive modalities that definitely intersect. And there's a lot of people out there who are probably remote viewing and they don't know that's what they would want to call it. But there's other people who use the term remote viewing, but I would say they're doing something really kind of other than remote viewing. And so at least through Irva, we try to use it like within the historical context that it grew up in, which was the U.S. government programs and research organizations.
Yeah, and the idea of being able to bring that to more people, being able to make programs like you're talking about accessible to new teachers, new students, being able to team those people up, especially being able to database teachers the way Lynn Buchanan does with viewers, that kind of stuff, to see what they're better at. You can definitely, at that point, if somebody comes to Irva and says, "I'm looking to do this," you can give them a quick survey and definitely team them up with possibly the best monitor for them.
Yeah, we haven't done that so much to date, but this is one reason why we're developing our professional membership program.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that we can, when people get in touch and say, "Hey, I need a viewer for this particular issue, who can I contact?" We're not sitting there like, "Oh, well, we know, 3 people who we could call, but they're too busy." No, we want to have, a database,
That's right.
a whole list, at least starting off. Maybe it'll, be a list of 10 or 20 people who are very well vetted and have shown that they can operate at the professional level, that we could refer those people to. And then we're also looking at creating different teams that could handle projects that are already like working together through the organization.
Yeah. Well, and also being able to highlight different people's skill set, because there are different skill sets within remote viewing. There are people who pick up texture and color better than smell and taste, things like that. So being able to metric that out and know, like, hey, so this is the task at hand. These 3 viewers will cover the best panoply of options for the task at hand.
Yeah. And, a lot of times requests will come in, and sometimes those requests can be done like in a totally blind manner where, we just give the viewers a target number. They would have no front loading, meaning they would know nothing about the target at all. And some viewers prefer to work that way or feel like that's the only way they could work.
Yeah.
But, sometimes requests will come in and it would really be necessary to let the viewers know something about it. Like, if there's some horrific crime case, like it would be unethical to just, give the viewers a target number. Like we would have to be like, okay, there could be some really emotional components to this. And, this is a crime case and, we're not going to...
discretion advised.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah, literally. So, and some viewers would absolutely want that and, even work better with that. Like I personally like to know the nature of a case I'm working on because I don't want to like spend like 2 hours trying to get to like, oh, is this a stock trade or is the stock going to go up or down, or is this finding a missing kid?
Yeah.
I would rather be told which one it is up front, but some viewers don't even want to know that. So everyone has their different preferences and, I don't know how much we'll be able to accommodate all of those little details, but this is something, we're really looking at how can we do that. So that'll be cool. And then also we're really excited about all the alliances that we're forming with different research organizations and researchers. And, right now we have a lot of different organizations coming to us and saying like, we need a pool of remote viewers for this project or that. We have the University of Virginia Department perceptual studies that's studying remote viewers'
Awesome.
brain waves, and I think that's a
Cool.
topic that you're interested in. I just spent like
Hugely.
4 days with researchers there where they hooked me up to EEGs as a pilot project, but they're going to be looking for more viewers. And so we'll now have, as our professional level program develops, we'll be able to draw from people there. And the Monroe Institute is looking both for viewers to help with projects, and they also are in need of like judges and different analysts for things. I've been, again, traditionally, like requests would come into Irva, and just like a few of us would end up like doing a lot of the work. But there's just so much work to do, whether analyst work, judging work, work as a remote viewers, and this field is really expanding, and we actually do have a shortage of people who can handle like really whether it's research projects or applied cases. So I think moving forward we're going to have a lot more people we can draw on.
Yeah, exactly. And to know that there are efforts going on to not only build local communities, but once again building international communities, having these people tied together, having these cultures tied together within this subculture, I think is going to be hugely important and make massive, massive strides rapidly for the cause.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
It's cool, and I'm so thrilled that you, as a leader in media in these areas, are have taken it upon yourself to get training, and I hope that so many more will too, because
it's quite honestly, whenever I mentioned to Lynn Buchanan that I'd been interested in it for years, he literally was like, "I have a program for media to go through my classes. I'll gladly send it to you."
Wow.
And it was the most touching thing in the world. And to know that he saw the efficacy in, if I'm going to give this away to anybody, I should be giving it away to media people.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible and very future looking. The idea of like, even his online classes, things like that, it's really great, because when you start looking at the way that new generation interacts with things, I'm coming on 50. I remember parking my bike unlocked at the library when I was a kid, because, well, we didn't have a Commodore 64 yet, so the way we interact with devices is different. The way that we interact with each other on the internet is different. So to bring in younger people, like one of my favorite things in the world was last year in Virginia, seeing almost half that crowd college age was awesome. So awesome to see people that age so interested in this topic. That's what moves it into the next generation. That's what really enlivens it for the next 50 years, much less the next 25.
Yeah, and in the talk that you gave at the conference a couple of days ago, I think it was you who mentioned like even video games. Like a great idea would be to develop video games that involved remote viewing. And I know there are some apps that are getting close to that, but it's still not like full-fledged like virtual reality type of games. And I think, like, wouldn't it be cool, like you don't open a door until you remote view what's behind it, or have enough of a description to go through it,
or have enough of a hit level to go through it. Like once you're at 60%, we can go to the next level. And let's move to the next training now.
And who's going to come out next to attack you, and what weapon are they going to be using to attack you with?
I just saw this in my head, and that's dangerous, because now it means I have projects.
Exactly.
But sincerely, it's really exciting to see where we can leverage new technology in this science. I mean, I tell people all the time, of all parapsychological studies, this is science. It's been in the laboratory since day one. So it's phenomenal.
Well, and speaking of science, if you had a video game, then you would be really collecting data. It's probably the best way to be collecting
in real time
data. It would be really easy to do that.
Yeah.
And again, there are these apps where there's like RV Tournament. That's a great app just to like go on and try to describe a picture you're going to see next. Or there's Russell
Yeah.
Targ's ESP trainer, and there's several others that are pretty cool, but they're not the same as full-fledged video games. And I think that will really be the next thing to really get people engaged. So
Yeah.
the ideas are out there. Maybe you have that capability.
I have the
or-
connections with people who
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
So I will
That would
definitely
be
be dropping
amazing.
ideas, because that would be really cool. And, once again, to see where we can leverage new technologies, where we can start to bring global communities together. That is really the future placement of this. Thank you so much for your time, literally all weekend. It's been so much fun being able to, typically we're at conference and passing each other in the hallway as you're going in, I'm coming out, things like that. But to be able to, once again, spend time, build community in an event like this, it's really, really been pleasurable and very, very precious. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And we better hurry because we've
I
got
know.
karaoke.
We have
tonight.
karaoke coming up.
We have a disco party. There's
all
still
kinds
several,
of activities.
Yeah, we're
So-
not going to hardly have time to sleep
Well,
before the program tomorrow.
With that in mind, let the audience know where they can go to sign up for your classes personally at your website, things like that, where they can go to get involved with Irva and find out more about the Pro program.
Yeah. So they can go to irva.org, irva.org. And to learn about my offerings in particular, they can go to Debra Katz, DebraKatz.com, DebraKatz.com, just my name, but to look up the International School of Clairvoyance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. It's always
Oh.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure spending time with you. Well, you
Thanks.
are online checking out everything from Debra Katz, as well as the International Remote Viewing Association at irva.org, everybody. Make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can like, follow, subscribe. That's where you can find all of our awesome live videos from events like the International Remote Viewing Association cruise. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, everybody, thank you for your open hearts, your open minds. Without that, the world does not move forward. Humanity does not march forward. So remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and stay curious. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at CuriousRealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is CuriousRealm.com/store.